A full review of the all-new generation of the Audi A7. Is this one the perfect Grand Tourer? We'll find out on Autogefuehl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars. Today with Thomas. A detailed look on the exterior here with the S-Line 2, the interior and the driving experience and beautiful landscape experience here in South Africa. So welcome, enjoy this one here in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! The new A7 is more evolution than revolution, but of course the manufacturers always want to have the next model even sportier, for example by those design lines on the hood, the even bigger front grille, so Audi single frame grille. Then also the headlights are drawn more horizontally. Wow, they're really very wide. The S-Line here especially comes with a stronger lower bumper and those comp style air intakes, which are not real air intakes. The headlights, by the way, standard LED, optional then with a matrix LED and optional. Here you can see those, the top laser LED. They are then also for the high beam for maximum visibility. They also have very nice light games going on there. You can see that we have some other shots where you can see that when it was a little bit darker in the shadows. Pretty impressive light show we can see there. 4 meters 93 or 16'3" is the total length. That's 20 centimeters shorter than the Audi A8. Still, all three cars are on the same platform. This one here with the more sportier orientation. You can already see that in design, especially in the side profile, if you have the S-Line mounted, which we have on this vehicle. 18-inch starts, then maximum those ones, the 21-inch rims. Wow, really massive. You can see it's basically a combination of two different rim designs, like here, and then they are forged together, at least visually, what I meant. Very interesting, but my tip would be to go for a 19-inch. That's good compromise between attractive visual part and also still enough comfort for your riding. Then they are basically, one design like here on the height of the door handles and in the lower part, also stronger with the S-Line right there. This is called here Suzuka Grey, but basically it looks more like white, doesn't it? And of course special for the A7 is this coupe-like ending here. Looks very agile with those strong shoulders here too. And there's also an adaptive small spoiler in the rear part which lifts up when you go over 120 kilometers an hour. In the rear they've done something more daring. You can see this light element that goes all the way over the car and also the lower black element here. This one is basically mirroring the upper part. So, they've done something different there, especially when it's illuminated. Then it looks really spectacular. But in that way, I'm not really sure yet myself. I would just prefer it when it would end right here. Or what do you think? Here in the S-Line, by the way, you have also, this is black shiny cover right there. Also a little bit stronger in the lower part, but it won't look so different on the other normal A7. My favorite color, by the way, is Ara Blue. That's a real Thomas Blue color. You can check out that color if you order one. This is the car key, but it's also keyless entry, of course. And not only that, well, first of all, that will be the door closing sound, but there's also the soft close. Magic. Optional feature, of course. The A7 is characterized by no frames around the windows. Still, you can see this double layer acoustic glass. However, the acoustic sound insulation, the premium one, is an optional feature. The base one will already be good. This one will be superb. Then we have Alcantara at the inside of the doors with the S-Line vehicle right here. You get different decor elements. This one is also nicer than just the shiny black one. This brushed aluminum style. Also galvanized buttons here, all with a nice clicking sound. Superb build quality, as we know it from Audi. You open the trunk right there. There's optional a 19-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system available with a great sound. We've tested that. S-Line entry badge at the lower part. Those ones are the top optional seats. Here also with a seat massage button. You click it here and then you activate the button, and soon I will show you at the screen that you have a lot of different features. The S-Line also features this perforated steering wheel with a flat bottom and the S-Line logo. Those ones are the optional multi-contour seats. So the top trim seats, there are different seat forms available and different seat surfaces. In Germany, you get fabric as base. There are also Alcantara seats available. And in the US, you will also get a full leather red option. Those ones here, as Audi usually shows, are full animal skin spec. Then let's get inside. And you sit relatively low, but it's a very comfortable seating position because the seat form itself is really comfortable. You'll also be fine with the base seats, however. Headroom, there's plenty available. I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", and there's still plenty of headroom left. Will be a little bit less if you pick a panoramic roof. The steering wheel can be adjusted in reach and also in height. That works very well. It's a manual system, however. I'm fine with a manual system, but I think for $100,000 you could also expect an electric movement. A lot of different column levers here, for example, for indicators, lower part than for the ACC, which has a lot of different trim levels. By the way, here's another storage space. Oh, it's falling down without a dampering. No. We've seen that better even in a 30,000 euro car. Then the Audi virtual cockpit. You can change the view here. Big GPS map in the middle. Of course, very impressive with the satellite view. But you can also have, for example, consumption figures here. Will be about 11 or 12 liters. Yeah, that's the big downside of this in one way traditional vehicle, but you see in other terms, very modern one. The interior is definitely a wow effect interior. Such a horizontal stress, everything is really pulled tight, also with the air vent structure. Then you can use the brushed aluminum style right there. And single frame Audi grille on the left side design part also goes way through. Well, there are a lot of shiny black elements here and they collect fingerprints and also are prone to scratches. Not so happy with that. When it's dark, this part here will also be illuminated. That looks really fancy. The screen setup, this one, the lower part, will always be the 8-inch one. The top part starts with 8-inch and then the optional 10-inch you can also get right there. The steering wheel from this position again with the single frame Audi grille on the inner part looks really fancy there again. And then this one here is equipped with a dual clutch transmission, the petrol engine. The 3-liter diesel is equipped with the Tiptronic. That one then is the converter automatic gearbox. Soon more details to the screens, especially to those two ones. Really fancy technology. But again, the question is it maybe too much? Is it too distracting when you don't have separate buttons? What do you think? So the top screen is mainly used for the GPS, and wow, how impressive is this satellite view. Such a great quality and still reacts quite fast for the detail we see. Then you have this haptic feedback and also hear a clicking sound when you click those different elements. That's also interesting. Telephone can either be connected via Bluetooth in classic style, or is also possible to use the smartphone interface, then with plugging in and using CarPlay and Android Auto. On the lower part, you have the climate unit. You can either click it again, you also get this haptical feedback. You can also hold it and just, like scroll on it. So you have different possibilities then, also where the vents are coming from. If you, by the way, click the button at the seat then next to you, you can activate the massage, and wow, it's really working well on those different dots. You really feel them in your back. It's great stuff, definitely great luxury feature if you can afford that. Then there's also seat heating available with those seats here. Then again, if you would just pick the base fabric seats, you probably wouldn't need it. And then the last thing, you can also play around with both screens together. For example, if you're in the GPS menu, and that's, by the way, to center everything again. And if you, for example, want to enter an address like this, then the lower part jumps either here to this, just you click the letters, or you can also write. And if you want to go to Berlin, it's always or to Botswana, for example, then you go to BO and see Botswana, and it is really working very well, especially if you're not entering countries, better like towns, or if you want to, yes, South Africa, okay, I don't know what about that now, but you see, this system sometimes has its limits. Now when I go to B again, there it is, Botswana. Then it goes further with the town. I think the writing function is a very good one, by the way. And maybe you also hear that now on microphone when the seat ventilation is working, then it's getting quite loud. So very impressive system. The only question is again, what about controlling it while driving? And also very impressive, the quality of the front or rear view camera. Here the drone view from above. You can also switch it around, have this fake 3D view. You can even look behind, even when people going around, there's another car scrolling around. Wow, that's really impressive stuff. We've seen also with the A8. Also, the A6 will get that. And I mean, look at that. This is really cool. And also really helpful when you want to see, do I scratch my 21-inch rims maybe at the next pavement, or are they safe? So you also have a clean style right here, electric handbrake, and the cup holes are here, they're adaptive, 12-volt power supply right there, a very fixedly attached armrest. Here there's a spot also for inductively charging your phones if you like so. Most of the features are optional. That's the bad thing about this vehicle. It will get very expensive then. Then 2 USB slots right there, and well, there's enough space also for big smartphones, but of course not too much space overall. So what about the rear compartment here? It's a very long car, and you do have enough soft close. You have enough soft close here also in the rear. Well, you have enough knee room still left, even if a tall driver is driving like me at the moment. However, I would tell the driver to lift the seat a little bit up, that I can better put my feet under the seat. It's still somewhat comfortable here, but the same accounts, it's more comfortable in cars where you have a rather upright seating position. Here without the panoramic roof, even though the roof is going down due to the design on the exterior, you still have enough headroom left. So it's still quite cozy in here. The rear bench is not too long, however. So it's not the ideal car, but I'm always saying those typical old chauffeur cars are not really that suitable. If you want a best comfort in the rear part, then you probably go even for a compact SUV that is more comfortable. Adaptive cup holders here in the rear with this armrest, also have some more space on the lower part. And this one here is basically a single seat setup here. It's really also just for 4 people overall, but that makes it again somewhat exclusive then. And we also have an interesting unit here for the climate controls. If you go for the 4-zone AC, top part also with this nice clicking and haptical feedback, and 2 USB slots. If you don't open the hatch with the keys, you have to not only put here in there, because I think they hit the opener a little bit more back because of the light signature here. It's like this, and then you can open it. It's 535 liters of capacity overall, up to a maximum of 1,400. Well, first of all, some small space here on the lift, but it's quite handy. Also a safety net can be ordered to hold things tight. If you raise the vehicle below that, there's just some audio equipment and tire replacement kit and stuff. 12-volt power supply we find here too. This one here is the basic fixed cover. You can also remove it if you want. Just pull it and then pull it out like this. What's also interesting is that as a sunshade you can put out this one. It's really, oh, isn't it cute? Then let's put that really out, because if you want the maximum setup, hey, you can even do it from here. So I have to go around, but yeah, you can either do it from here or then go around, and then you have the maximum setup. To be really exact, 1,390 liters, and that you have, just a measuring. This is a backpack here. Then you can see, how much size there is actually. So it is actually relatively flat, but overall, due to the handy hatch, you can load things in and out very easily. This one can be actually something like an A8 estate, or if you want, something between the A6 estate and a sedan. So actually for such a sporty look, also pretty versatile in the rear. Take a look under the hood. This one here, the 3-liter V6 turbo petrol, 340 horsepower, 5.3 seconds, the acceleration figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. This one will also be the major engine for the US. In Europe, we'll also get the V6 diesel 3-liter, and with 286 horsepower, 5.7 seconds the acceleration. Difference between the petrol and the diesel is that here we got the dual clutch transmission, the S-tronic 7-speed, whereas the diesel gets the Tiptronic, the converter gearbox, because there's more torque. But still, this one is the faster one. No particle filter for the petrol engines yet. They will comply with regulations in September 2018 because they have to. But I think, as other manufacturers do it, they should comply with the regulations before they actually really have to. The diesels, however, will already get the SCR cleaning because it would be illegal otherwise. Welcome to the driving part, guys, with the new A7 55 TFSI. That's how the engine is called. This is 3-liter V6 petrol, 340 horsepower, acceleration 5.3 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour. And this one will probably also be one of the most important engines, as this one will be sold worldwide. So we have 4 different suspensions available: base, sports -10 millimeters, then the adaptive one, and finally the air suspension, which we are driving here today. And that one is also adaptive. You can put a little bit higher, put a little bit lower for sporty driving and stuff. If you're driving just in a normal driving mode, the A7 already is set a little sportier than the A6 and the A8. All 3 are on the same platform. Basically, all 3 are the same cars. The A7 has not only the sporty design, but also a nuance more towards the sporty driving. I do feel that. Here also in the S-line, it's supported by the sporty steering wheel, and it is really a very fun ride. Also, due to the all-wheel steering or the rear axle steering, which is equipped in here, the car feels more agile than the length actually promises. Oh. So it's really, really interesting because it's up to an angle of 5 degrees. So up to a speed of 60 kilometers an hour, it goes like this or like this. So the opposite side, and that makes the car more agile. As soon as I'm driving over 60 kilometers an hour, goes in a parallel direction, maximum of 2 degrees. And especially if you're driving a little bit slower, you feel that the car feels really agile when doing a slalom, when you're in the city, maybe searching for a parking lot and so on. That is really helpful because the car feels smaller than, although it is actually a quite big car already and a quite long car. So that is actually one of the major technology features I would go for. Of course, everything is expensive, and the car is even more expensive if you pick it with a lot of options. Here, by the way, the Chapman's Peak Drive, one of the most, well, look at that, one of the most beautiful routes in the world, definitely, here south of Cape Town. Of course, always a little bit tricky with overtaking here, but we'll soon figure out the way. So we'll also soon show you some of the acceleration. One of the key features is that even when the road is a little bit rough just from the pure surface, no bumps in the road, but from the surface it's quite loud, the car remains super silent. This one here equipped with the optional sound insulation package. Again, this is another feature you can have a good effect from if you want to spend the money for this extra pack. So one of the most silent cars we have experienced so far, that's for sure. So really very well done. And also without the sound insulation package, they have improved the sound insulation towards the predecessor generation. Yeah, it feels a little bit more agile than the predecessor because mainly of the rear wheel axle steering. That is one of the key features also that makes a big difference. Other than that, the chassis is a little bit stiffer. That is also helping, definitely, to give you some more agility in this vehicle. Other than that, you should also have fun with the predecessor generation. As we've shown you in the interior part, it's also a lot about the interior features. So let's see, maybe that guy here could leave us by. It's left way traffic here, and that means I always have to keep to the left and don't be distracted by my usual habit driving on the right side. That can actually be quite tricky. So let's see, we can also go just on the automatic shifting lever to the sport mode, and then I could actually ready myself that I can boost the RPMs a little bit higher up. And it's easier to overtake, for example. But of course, I need to check out if it's safe here somehow, somewhere. So the gears are turned up higher then in the S mode. That's quite nice. In general, the engine sound is not coming too much towards the cabin, so it keeps relatively silent overall. Super tight corners here, but the car is handling it really well. When you want to relax, go back to the D mode again, see, okay, there's no sense, or then S mode again if you want to overtake, or not. Tricky situations. What about the other driving modes? Well, it's also about the air suspension then, because it's not only that you can change the shifting characteristic, well, what a view is coming up now, and how the gears are turned up higher and lower. You can also go to the normal drive select in the lower console then, and then, for example, go to dynamic. Are those speeding cameras? Could be, right? I think we have to pay attention to those as well. So the drive select is not that easily reachable as it was in the past models, because in the past models you had this separate button, for example. You could easier press that, and wow, what a view. Such an amazing drive here. And now we have this place in the lower console, and then I have to search for it a little bit while driving. So while driving, it's a little bit distracting for sure. So when you're then in the dynamic mode, the air suspension goes a little bit stiffer. It's still somewhat comfortable. The S shifting mode is also being activated. And then you feel that the car is accelerating even better. And it's such a flawless acceleration for sure. So as soon as you hit the throttle, you get the immediate response. That's also a little bit different than with the diesel. It's better a little bit better with the petrol engine here. So for example, if I just go like 30 to 50 just in the S mode here, that's it already. That was 60. So before you can even look, the acceleration is there. So performance-wise, always great performing. That was maybe a German holiday trip, escaping to the right side of the road. But the problem is, of course, always with consumption. I mean, there are a lot of winding roads here, and it's not really very good for consumption. But if you use it in the city, and then also winding countryside roads and stuff, not so much on the motorway, well, we have a consumption about 12.5 liters on 100 kilometers, and that's really heavy. It will go down when we go downhill now. With the A8, if you remember, we could also score 1-digit liter figures per 100 kilometers if we just run straight, like cruise control, 80 kilometers an hour, and that's it. Yeah, but the question is always if that's really realistic. If we would drive a little bit less dramatic then, and we would have more straight road, it could be about 10 liters maybe. But surely most of the time it will be above that figure. So all of the things they have included, this 48 volt board net, which is then coasting between speeds, somewhat between, I think it was 65 to 120, somewhat in that region. It's not helping too much. So in this situation, for example, when I'm going the brakes, I can go to the D mode again, and leave the dynamic mode. Then the car could, for example, start this sailing mode, just drive without the engine being on. Then again, we have the AC on and seat cooling and stuff. That could prevent the system from going on again. And they have so much effort to make this petrol engine even more efficient and spend so much money on it. And the effect, basically, in everyday driving life is more just about, do you hammer the throttle or do you not? And that's basically it. So maybe it would make more sense to invest more money in like real alternative drivetrains. Could be a solution. Or what do you think? So this is still a classic setup then, a lot of new technology inside, but the consumption will remain high no matter what. Now, by the way, very interesting, now the road is flatter, the surface. Up there and in the hills, it's a really rough surface. Now the surface is rather smooth. And now, wow, what silence here. Whew. It's really so, the loudest thing we hear at the moment, not sure if you hear that on camera, is actually the AC working and the seat cooling, which is working. Animal skin surface here, getting very hot in summer times, 27 degrees Celsius here, summer in South Africa still. So that's the loudest thing we hear. And we're driving now 70 kilometers an hour. You hear really nothing. Assistance system wise, putting on the adaptive cruise control that is working flawlessly. Also with the optional predictive assistant, that means that the car is realizing, is there any intersection or roundabout coming, and it's reducing the speed automatically to save fuel and to make it a little bit more comfortable for you. So that is working really well, and also keeping the distance to the car in front of you and really reducing the speed until 0. That's really working very well. There's also this central unit for all the assistance systems, different sensors. If you pick the highest trims, you have a mix of sensor-based radar, laser even, camera-based, and this all mix is then processed into the central so-called ZFAS unit and then calculated for all of the different assistance systems. What's also helping while driving is the virtual cockpit. You can also make the view a little bit wider than again to see the GPS. I have the voice commands of the GPS deactivated, but I can see it on both big screens, so you can't miss the GPS way then really. So, this one is not really a high-speed country here. When we do some tests in Germany, we can do more testing with bigger speeds. Then again, if you think about most car markets nowadays, they're not about like driving 200 kilometers an hour. Where can you actually do that? still, even if you drive slowly, the consumption remains high. And that is probably, the worst thing about this vehicle, because everything else is really perfect in the execution. The sovereignty you drive the car with, the calmness, still the sportiness to a degree that is definitely amazing considering the size of the vehicle. So especially due to the rear wheel access steering, also the suspension setup, the air suspension especially also, that is giving you a wide span between very comfortable and soft and still sporty if you really want that. So the other suspensions will also do just fine if you want to save some money, so you cannot really make a bad suspension choice. I'm not sure if I would go for the minus 10 millimeter normal suspension, because that just makes it stiffer. And rim choices, as you've seen earlier, we are driving with the 21-inch rims. Those ones are really big. You feel a little bit from the roughness, but the air suspension is evening it out. If you want more riding comfort, I would say step back a little bit, pick the 19 or 20-inch, and they will also look really big still, but are maybe not as, ending this little roughness with the 21-inch rims. Also, you're damaging those 21-inch rims too easily. There's a pavement, and then you got all the scratches all the way around. They look great, but everything else is, rather not so good about the biggest rims there. And then again, if you think about A6, A7, A8, the A8 feels bigger exactly, even if it's not really that much longer. A little bit softer from suspension tuning. The A6 as we know it too, basically. The all-new A6 we still have to drive. But there, the basic schematic remains the same, that the A7 is supposed to be the sporty GT in this lineup. Just little differences, but you can actually feel those. And since you guys surely want to see some bigger acceleration, I'll also take it on the motorway, some motorway comments. And here we can actually get a little bit more speed, because on countryside roads here speed limit is quite low and you cannot really speed the car out that well. So what we're doing now is getting to the dynamic mode again to get you the most acceleration possible. Here 120 kilometers an hour limit, and now I'll drop down to 60 kilometers, and let's see how we can give it up to speed to 120 then. Oh, jogging on the motorway, nice. So, and now let's go. Plop, that's it. Wow. Nice. Yeah, that's really powerful and so effortless. But what you also heard, that you hardly hear any sound from the engine. And well, the thing is really that the engine is that well insulated that you can hardly hear it anymore. But still you get the feeling of this super sovereign riding. And again, the asphalt surface here is quite rough. Even if the road is, plain on the big scale, the micro scale of the surface is rough in comparison to other surfaces we've experienced. And so it's still super silent for that in here, and the car feels, just going to stress again, so sovereign again. And somehow I have more fun driving it than with the A8. That's even though they are basically same cars, there is a difference that I can feel still. And what is also notable, cannot test it right now, but I tested it off camera. I was in a traffic jam yesterday and was putting the traffic jam assistant, and here it also works that you do not have to push the throttle or even use the lever. The car, if it has come to a full stop, even accelerates on its own again when the traffic is moving forward. And you can even keep your hands off the steering wheel at the very low speeds. So I think it was below 20 kilometers an hour. So also doing those small steering corrections. And that's really helpful in traffic jam context, that you can just relax basically in traffic jam. And now to our conclusion for today, the all-new Audi A7. In exterior design, wow, really great looking vehicle. At the same time, it has a very clean design and indeed already from the exterior, really flawless. And among those big vehicles, the non-SUV big vehicles that Audi is offering, A6, A8, I think, at least to me, the A7 is also the most beautiful one. At the same time, it's also quite versatile in the interior still due to this very big hatch opening. Of course, a lot of comfort and luxury also in the interior, a lot of high-tech there with the new infotainment systems. At some point, you can maybe think, is it maybe a little bit overdone? Could it be done easier? That's always something that comes with those new infotainment technologies, which you always have to consider, I think. Other than that, a flawless build quality that is such a joy when you really examine all the different functions we see there. The head-up display, for example, too, we haven't mentioned that too. That is working also flawlessly if you want to go for that optional. Then driving-wise, so much sovereignty, still then at the same time more driving fun than with the other big Audi vehicles. Driving-wise, I think it is among best in class too from the driving fun it is offering. Also, the fine-tuned setup between the comfort and the sporty ride. Here today also with the optional air suspension. You'll be also fine with the base suspensions as they're also usually very finely tuned. That's something they really can do very, very well. Also, power is available in abundance as we knew it. Also such an effortless riding. Then the assistance systems are also quite convincing, especially the adaptive cruise control, also one of my favorites. That's working even with a great traffic jam assist. And then there are so many positive sides about the car, such an impressive vehicle. What are the downsides? Well, 67,000 is about the entry price in US and Germany. And then again, well, most vehicle that's standing here at the moment, at least 100,000. So the option list goes very wide. You get so expensive then. That's of course a problem then. You still have to be able to afford it. That's really hard. And what else? Well, sustainability is one of their biggest problems because there are no real alternative drivetrains yet. All of the efforts, I'm so sorry just to tell it to the engineers, with 48-volt board net, the sailing, the coasting functions, all of the efficiency trims they've made, they maybe work on paper, but they don't work in reality. The car is still consuming too much fuel no matter which engine you pick. No alternative drivetrains available. So that's something you really have to tackle. And also the abundant use of animal skin, at least in the higher trim levels. So that's the thing they have to attack. Other than that, it is surely one of the most desirable cars. Thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, I want to hear your comments on the different aspects we've covered. And of course, tune in next time. Thank you so much.